But I realized when this opportunity came up that I had never had an official African American Studies course in my entire life.
If he never had it, a man with advanced degrees, what are the chances that children sitting in classrooms today are actually getting it? I'm Esther Dillard. This is The Color Between the Lines. And that question is what drove Dr. Patrick Lamy, Executive Director of the New Jersey Amistad Commission, to leave a career in higher education and take on one of the most important education mandates in the country. New Jersey was the first state to require that the history and the contributions of Africans and African Americans be taught across all subjects, kindergarten through 12th grade, all year long. That law passed in 2002. Dr. Lamy is now making sure that actually happens. Dr. Lamy, really welcome to The Color Between the Lines. You led the Amistad Commission at a moment when the national conversation about what gets to be taught in American classrooms has never been more contested. For listeners who may not be familiar with what the commission actually does, can you explain what it does and why it exists?
New Jersey is an interesting place. In 2002, New Jersey became the first state in the nation to create a commission of this kind, one that requires that the narrative of Africans and African Americans are included in the curriculum, K-12 curriculum, in all subject areas. And subsequent to New Jersey's passage of that law, which was in August of 2002, New York followed suit in 2005, and Illinois followed suit in 2005 as well. I share that to kind of create some context. As of today, there are about 17 other states with a similar law, like the Amistad Commission. Only 3 have the Amistad badge in terms of a formal Amistad Commission in New Jersey, New York, and Illinois. All the others have some kind of guidance, including the state of Florida. So back to your point on what's happening in the country now and why this is important. But Florida put a stop to it in 2022 with the Stop Woke legislation initiative by Governor DeSantis. In fact, Florida was one of the first groups I met with back in 2022 and 23 when they were trying to get their work to kind of move forward. And so what we do is we work with teachers, we work with educators, curriculum supervisors across the state. We work with community partners, community agencies. This commission interfaces with the entire state. We have a responsibility and scope that involves 600 school districts, all 100,000 teachers in the state, and the 2.4 million students that are served in New Jersey public schools. So we have a presence statewide and a major agenda to find a way to do this work, to find a way to give it value, to find a way for districts to understand its importance.
I want to get into the Summer Institute, but I wanted to ask you something a little bit more personal. I know you got into teaching and there was perhaps a reason that called you to this work. I wondered if there was a moment within a classroom, as a student, or something that you witnessed yourself that really made you feel like you wanted to do this kind of work rather than something else.
Well, so on a personal level, I have to be very honest with you. When this opportunity came to my attention, I realized something about myself for the very first time, to be honest, and why I felt the need to make this commitment and this leap in changing career. You know, my career started in higher education. I spent most of my life in either higher education classroom or as an administrator on the executive level. But I realized when this opportunity came up that I had never had an official African American Studies course in my entire life.
Wow.
I went to one of the best high schools in the state of New Jersey. I went to 3 very, very, very popular institutions of higher education that I'd never had that experience. So in having that little moment of introspection, I realized that what about the children of New Jersey? If I'm in this space, what about the children of New Jersey? And in taking on this leap into this area of K-12, what impact can I have? And that's why I'm so passionate about this work.
So let's get into the Summer Institute, the 2026 Summer Institute. Tell us about it. Who's going to be there, and why should a New Jersey educator make a trip to Kean University this July to do this?
For many reasons. The first is I'm happy to share with our listeners that we're probably going to have record numbers this year at the Summer Institute at Kean. As of this morning, we have 360 New Jersey educators registered for it. Until 2023, we've never exceeded 100 at a single event. So this is a big deal. And why attend? It's an opportunity to network with your peers. It's an opportunity to hear from practitioners across the field. Our Summer Institute is structured very carefully. It's structured in a way that every teacher has an opportunity to have a takeaway. We created a program where we structure the sessions tailored for teachers who are in the K through 5 space, so that all the work that they're experiencing is tailored to the audiences that are in front of them. We also structure the work to focus on grades 6 to 8, and also for grades 9 to 12. And that was done intentionally because not every lesson, whether it's geography or African civilization, is taught in the same way because the audiences are different. And so the takeaway there is there's real opportunity to walk away with real resources and real how-to. Our commission's charge is to make sure that we make the work doable and accessible for our New Jersey educators. So why be there? Meet new people, take away opportunities for what you can bring back to your districts. But more importantly, it's free. So, and that's the question I'm always asked: what's the cost for the institute? We provide this free of charge. It's if for those who decide to stay on the Kean Community campus, it's also free. We pay for the housing, we pay for meals, and we pay for all the resources that are provided.
I know that the Amistad legislation requires New Jersey schools to teach African American history and contributions across, I believe, all subject areas, not just Black History Month, not just one Black History Month assembly. So how well do you think that New Jersey schools are actually doing that? And what happens when they don't?
Great question. I think there's a turning point that we're experiencing right now. I would say that. And I will say that I'm not going to take the credit for it. I think that it just happened to be the right moment for the state to kind of reimagine what it can do. We did the groundwork of launching a strategic plan, but we also did a statewide survey to get a sense of what teachers are thinking, to get a pulse of where we are. We collected data from over 1,000 educators to kind of sense, how are you doing this? Why are you doing? Do you think it's important to kind of get to that level of understanding? And we also strategically began to reach out to each and every county to kind of move the needle along. So I think we're doing far more work in this space now than we've done in years prior. As I mentioned to you earlier, in terms of our tracking of our work now, we know that we've increased our participation from districts from approximately 200 to about 400 over the past 2 or 3 years. So we're moving the needle along. Your question to what happens when somebody don't. Here's my response to it, because I'm asked this question a lot. We created a law, a very important law. And I use the example, if you and I were speeding past a red light, there's a police officer in the corner, chances are we would probably get pulled over and get a ticket, correct?
Before Dr. Lamy answers that question, if you're an educator, a parent, or a community member who believes that knowing the full history of this country makes better students and stronger communities, I have resources built for conversations just like this one. Educator guides, discussion frameworks, and civic conversations that are in my Etsy shop at Color Between the Lines Market. It's in the description. And if this episode is speaking to you, please subscribe and share it. Every share puts this in front of one more person who really needs it.
So what our approach in the past couple of years has been to incentivize. So in the absence of, I believe that you have to bring coalition and build coalition. So we created all these incentives of why participate, because we'll feature your school, we'll give you a grant to do more work. with featured teachers, we feature educators. We now have an Educator of the Year award, an Administrator of the Year award. We're incentivizing people to do this work in a level that is considered excellent and exceptional. So in the absence of being punitive, we're rewarding people for great work, and we find that the response to that is a lot better than going in and say, "Why aren't you?" Because it puts districts in a defensive position, and that's not my nature. My nature is to be a resource. I'm not an enforcer.
Well, I know that data often tells a story that should trouble all of us, and that trouble all of us, especially that are teachers. Those are educators. And RAND research shows that teachers across the board are just plain old burnout, low pay, long hours. They're feeling disrespected. But Black teachers are often leaving at a higher significant rate than their white colleagues. Same pressures, different reality, because Black teachers are often earning less, burn out more, and working in schools where the culture wasn't always built for them in mind. I'm just wondering where you stand. What is actually, do you think, is pushing Black educators out of the door? And what do you do to try and bring keep those educators there rather than them leaving? What do we do as a community to try and keep them in the door as educators?
That's a broad issue. Esther, quite honestly, when you look at the number, I'm going to start with Black males underrepresented in the teaching profession. Black males account for about 1.3% of all teachers in the country, and Black women for about 4.8%, 4.7%, something to that effect. And the reality is, when you look at the landscape of K-12 education in public sector across the country, there is a sense of isolation, because you can technically be the only teacher of color in a school. That's very likely when you look at those numbers. And to talk about whether or not you feel a sense of belonging, whether or not you feel that there's equity and resources that are available to you versus others. I will tell you from my conversations being new to the space, it exists. There exists a sense of isolation. There exists a sense of whether this is right for me. But teaching is such an important profession for our country. And I think what we need to do is look at the systemic ways, not just on the district level. What can states do to look at the equity issues or the lack thereof, and how can we be more intentional in recruiting talent of color to the classroom?
I love that the fact that you're talking about, rewarding people, because a lot of times teachers now, especially in this very politically charged environment, especially when it comes to teaching Black history, ethnic studies, anything that touches race. And we've watched book bans, curriculum restrictions in different states and such. What do you say to, I guess, a Black teacher who's looking at this climate and thinking, is it worth it to do this?
I think I would tell you what kind of opens the eyes of our educators in the state. We started an initiative that was student-centered over the past 2 years. So what I mean by that is we're having roundtables with students more frequently. We're actually creating a student advisory council for all the commissions in New Jersey. And the reason we're doing that, because that answer comes from the student, not from me. So we have roundtables with students telling teachers, when I learn about myself, my history, how the people who look like me contribute to this country, I feel a certain kind of way. And this is what happens. This is my growth. This is my growth experience. We do that with New Jersey National History Day. We created our own competition, our Amistad competition for 4th and 5th graders. We created a Latin American competition. We're just really building students to kind of do the research and the work themselves, for them to inform educators. This is why it's important.
Well, it is Teacher Appreciation Week, National Teacher Appreciation Week that we're talking. And what do you want the people that are listening, and I guess educators, parents, students, community members, to understand what teachers are carrying right now and what appreciation actually looks like?
First, I think that teachers need to be appreciated year-round. To your question earlier, do we celebrate African American History in February? Not only in February, but year-round. Teachers need to be appreciated year-round. It's not and community leaders and boards of education, in particular, school districts, need to understand the plight of educators in the classroom, to understand that they require support, to understand that there's a lot of external pressures impacting what teachers are dealing with right now, whether it's cut in funding for on a federal level, the state level. We need to do more to show that we care, because there's a lot happening across us, particularly in our state of New Jersey.
Before I let you go, please write this down. The New Jersey Amistad Commission's 2026 Summer Institute is July 28th through July 30th at Kean University, and it's free. Virtual attendance is still open. The deadline for that is June 15th, so go to njamistad.gov. The register link is right in the front page, and it takes only about 3 minutes to do. Thank you, Dr. Patrick Lamy, for this conversation. The work of making sure Black history is not optional, not seasonal, and not erasable is a work that's happening right now. And people like Dr. Lamy are the reason for it. If this episode connected with you, subscribe and share it with one person, a teacher, a parent, a school board member, someone who really needs to hear it. I'm Esther Dillard. This is The Color Between the Lines. And remember, your story matters.